And we are live. Oh, damn, I forgot to put my bedroom on the green screen.
It's just a green screen.
Oh, the magic revealed. Hi, everyone. Welcome after the first week of the Post-Codegarden Blues. I hope everyone is still inspired and feel the vibe of the greatest event on the earth in Umbraco community, and not only. And Callum, how was your first week? Maybe let's start from that.
I mean, I had a very exhausting week last week, so I had a decent amount of rest, and I'm kind of buzzing with ideas as I expect most people that have been to Codegarden have. So I've been tinkering with a few things this week, a couple of packages, maybe a couple of pull requests. Let's see.
Yeah. And we are joined today by probably the largest amount of guests from different places. So maybe we'll leave some space to everyone to just introduce themselves. And I don't know if you see it in the correct order as I do, but we can start from Rachel and the rest of the team on the first box in my left.
Hi, I'm Rachel Briggs. I'm a senior developer here at Sigma, and really excited to be on umbraCoffee for the first time.
And Danny?
Danny Lancaster. I'm a software tester, but I also specialise in accessibility testing. And similar to Rachel, very happy to be here. Yeah.
Great to have you. Jan?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jan. I work as the front-end developer at the AKQA office in Denmark, and I care about accessibility. And last week I was a member of the Umbraco Beatles.
And you were on umbraCoffee as well.
Yes.
We have repeat guests.
Yes.
and another repeated guest, Mike. Hi, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, I'm Mike. I'm a developer here at YoYo. I was at Codegarden last week. It was amazing, and we've been doing a lot of stuff with accessibility with these wonderful people that we're here today with.
And you are a recent Umbraco MVP, which is
I am, yes.
Yeah. Congratulations and very well deserved. And it's for this, but not only this, for the virtual meetup and a bunch of other stuff you've been doing. So
yeah, it's been a busy year.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and Tiffany, we've been seeing you 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, so I'm Tiffany. I work for Leicester Council and on web stuff. And yeah, I've just come back after Codegarden after doing the talk on accessibility, which was pretty cool. And yeah.
Awesome. As we've started, Callum, probably we won't be talking too much about Codegarden because we've already did a big wrap up at the end of the Codegarden. Yes. It's all available on YouTube. We've also uploaded the recording from the day 2 when Google Hangout failed and made us offline for a while. So feel free to rewatch what happened on Codegarden on our umbraCoffee YouTube channel. We've seen a lot of great summaries, and I don't know if you've all read all of them or most of them, but I just wanted to flag some of those which came to our list and were the most retweeted ones, at least. Yeah, this is the first one. This is not the wrap up. Carlton and made also the great review of the whole event, and there were more and more posts being shared. There were some in Danish. Some of them were written in the other native languages. But in general, there's a lot of summaries and a lot of information about the event. So anyone who was not able to attend has a lot of information to catch up. But yeah. one thing which we've just spotted before going live with umbraCoffee, that's the great Umbraco man Douglas Robert, who was taking pictures and profile photos of Umbraco people during the event. Shared the gallery of those who were able to be at these photos, and that's a great pictures, and that's a great set. Oh, and we have some of our guests here as well. Yeah, really nice idea, and of course we all know that Doug transferred from being the Umbraco man to full-time photographer, and yeah, that's the great contribution from his side. Do you have any maybe one of the highlights from the whole event? I'm talking about everyone who attended the Codegarden. What's the best, I don't know, memory or something what affected your life the most from the whole Codegarden? What's the start?
I don't know if it affected my life per se, but seeing Niels be winched down from the rafters at the beginning of Bingo, that was a highlight.
Incredible. You could never have even expected that level of crazy. And I think Pear coming back as well was
yeah, that was such an event.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, one of my highlights, in fact, there was a blog post earlier in the week by Kat, who works at 360 in Bristol, and she was saying how she felt really, really welcomed, and that actually the event fit, if you're maybe not a back-end developer, it might be overwhelming, but actually she felt really included. And I think that the balance of the talks this year was really, really good. I was pleasantly surprised. There was a good mix of front-end topics, back-end topics, some soft skill topics, some broader just digital things. I really enjoyed that side of it.
Yeah, and Rachel, it wasn't your first Codegarden, right?
No, it was my second, but I think one of my highlights too was Pear coming back. The standing ovation we got was absolutely amazing. And yeah, and like Callum said, the mix of topics was really great as well. So yeah, came away with a lot to digest, a lot of learnings. Thank you.
Great. I got to meet Niels' parents and have a chat with them, and they're such lovely people.
Yeah.
Ended up speaking for about 45 minutes on making schnapps, making gin. There's a lot of insight there, and quite clearly a passion of theirs. But yeah, it was really nice.
For anyone that doesn't know, Niels' parents make schnapps at home, and they've been doing so for 30, 40 years. And they put bottles of it, like vintage bottles of schnapps, away at Codegarden.
Yeah, I couldn't pretend to really understand half the things he was telling me, because like he was going on about making their own rye bread and everything, and how they get yeast to brew for some reason. I don't know. I was just like fascinated. It was so nice to speak to them.
Yeah, I always remember Niels' parents who are wearing the Umbraco's t-shirts and just promoting the project itself. They are very proud, and it's very great to see them attending the event. I've mentioned the first-timers, and that's a great relation to another topic which I wanted to mention today, because Umbraco and Owen, they are both collecting the inputs from the first-timers at Codegarden. So if anyone who is watching us right now was attending the Codegarden for the first time, don't hesitate, and you should probably reach Milena and Owen to share your story and your story, your thoughts about the event itself, to maybe redistribute it across another people who will be considering attending Codegarden 2020, which is already announced, and it will take place in May. Once again in Odense. The super early bird tickets are on sale already. So yeah, we are all counting down right now to Codegarden 2020.
I wonder if is it Codegarden yet has been updated?
I will check it meanwhile. But for me, one of the highlights of the Codegarden was the introductions of Umbraco RFCs. And this is all what I wanted to share today, because it's another way of contributing to Umbraco project. Of course, there were a lot of other ways so far, but right now it's more structured, let's say. I don't know how to name it correctly, but we can create RFCs, which are kind of requests for comments, and there's a place where we can discuss everything from migrating Umbraco into the .NET Core, or removing or replacing the grid editor with something maybe more complex. So anyone can share more, and I'm expecting a lot of RFCs coming in and out from here, and translating them into the real issues, which will be then fixed in Umbraco or improved in general process. So that was my highlight, I would say.
Yeah, I spoke to I can never remember his surname. So for the whole of Codegarden, because I spoke to him quite a lot, Niels Skovgaard. I can't.
Yeah. Butchered that, but.
And I think it's also just. I mean, that was a kind of the highlight for me, was was firstly speaking to him because he had some really fresh perspective and really wanted to engage with things like the accessibility project and you know the whole dream corner thing. I think was a brilliant idea. And I asked him about the RFCs and in terms of the process, and he very much said it's still really early days. They've still got a lot of figuring out how it's actually going to work. But you know, it's very much kind of let's suck it and see what kind of things they get, and then start developing much more of a process around it. But I'm really excited about it too. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, and it's great that you've brought up Niels, or New Niels, as I think we'll call him, so to avoid mispronouncing his name. Because the reason we have this whole team here today is because you've been working quite extensively on trying to improve the back office, which is Niels's focus. He's the UI UX guy at HQ now. So I guess you've been working with him a little bit in order to get some of these accessibility changes in. But I'd love to know maybe how the extent of the accessibility team's interaction with HQ and how you're deciding what you work on.
So shall we do a little background on how this, for those who don't know how it came about. It was a few months ago, I think I put it in a code cabin Slack channel saying, you know, I want to try and do something to improve the accessibility in the back office. I've been doing various bits and bobs for clients and front end side of things, and in the past I'd noticed there were some issues. I thought, let's try and do something about it. And I think it was actually Matt Brailsford that suggested trying to do something like the PR team or the docs team. So that's where the idea of the accessibility team came from. And then it was just reaching out to the community, created a Trello board to chuck ideas. And then from that, Rachel and Danny, one of the people from Sigma, they helped put together this accessibility audit that then helped to guide where needs to be sort of an initial starting point on what needs to be improved. Those issues all got put into the this. And let me see if I can share my screen briefly. There we go.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah. If you can see it. Oh.
No.
How about now?
Oh. Yeah, it's you.
Yeah, so that gave sort of life to this issue, in which we sort of took all of those accessibility issues, and they all range from level A to AA. If you want to know about accessibility standards, have a look at the Web Accessibility Guidelines, or CAG. But yeah, there was a load of issues we found in here, and we wanted to find a way to improve the back office over time. It's not going to be a quick fix. This isn't an overnight change. There's lots of issues that we found in the back office. So it's reaching out, raising awareness, and I think that actually really showed this year's Codegarden. I think pretty much almost every talk that I saw included some discussion around accessibility, and it wasn't even Umbraco related. There was just a lot of attention around it, which I thought was great. We're hopefully doing the right thing, in that people are starting to take awareness of it. People are caring about it. Niels has been really good. He's actually been really on board with helping us get these ideas through. The initial standpoint with Umbraco themselves is that they are a very busy team. They have limited numbers. They are focused on so many areas, but having a sort of organized team from the community to help get involved and touch on those areas that they maybe don't have the expertise or the people to look at, means that it's a good thing from them. They can obviously guide and help focus where things need to be put in. But yeah, the idea is lots of little small improvements as we go along. I don't know whether I've answered all your questions.
I think it's really good. And actually, you mentioned the importance of why you're doing this, and that this is becoming a more and more prevalent topic. I know, Rachel, a couple of weeks back, we spoke about it on umbraCoffee, that you wrote a post about why accessibility is important. And before we were going live, Danny was just showing some examples of things that yeah, maybe ways that the web can work better for all of these different cases where people maybe need some, I don't know, some special help with using the web.
So yeah, in the UK, there's about 14 million people who have a disability. So we think we should consider accessibility from the start of developing projects. And we're keen to promote digital inclusion, and so working with the Umbraco back office and improving accessibility is really important to us. I think there's like over 500,000 sites now using Umbraco. Sorry, our lights have just gone off. So over 500,000 sites, I think, using Umbraco actively, and those obviously people working with are developers and editors. So it's important that we give them a really great experience with the back office, regardless of their needs. And so it's yeah.
It would be a shame if like when you're pitching an Umbraco project that it wasn't selected because the back office wasn't accessible. Like you say, just in the UK alone, that's nearly a quarter of our population with some form of disability, and you're alienating large amounts of a potential user base if you're not geared up for it. So it is really important.
Yeah, I think the other thing is it's important to remember our editors and our developers are our ambassadors for Umbraco. So if they don't have a great experience, they're going to say to other people, it's not a great CMS to work with. And of course, we are the friendly CMS. We want it to be the best CMS. So this is a really great way of making it more usable for everyone.
And Callum mentioned that you've shown us some of your already work in Umbraco back office from the accessibility perspective. Do you want to show it once again, Danny?
Yeah, definitely. So you saw a little bit of the technique for it, but it's just to be able to give you a highlight of some of the challenges that maybe an accessible user experience for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through using MBDA, but because obviously I'll be turning the volume straight down, and we'll be using what we call the speech viewer for it. So I'm hoping live demos always tend to go well, so there shouldn't be any. So let's share this, and then please do let me know when you can see the BBC website.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so brilliant. So on the right here is my speech viewer that comes through NVDA, which is my chosen screen reader, and it basically just puts whatever is spoken into text and to follow through. So as I start tabbing, because the other tool that I'm going to be using as part of this is just the tab key, so I'm going to navigate the entire website just using the tab. So as I start coming through here, it's identifying elements on there, it's reading it to me, it's quite clear. The skip navigation links are coming through and present, and then as I start tabbing through, you can quite clearly see where I am through the menu. Into the search, it's obviously identifying headings and let me know about links. Typically what you would expect to identify, so it's obviously quite a logical order, and at no stage am I confused or unsure where I am on the process or the page.
And this is useful for someone that maybe has reduced visual capacity, or even maybe reduced mobility, because you can navigate the site with a single.
So that's why we're doing it both of these at the same time in conjunction, because obviously, as you correctly said there, that this isn't just for screen reader users. As you said, this could be more impacted for mobility users, and obviously making sure they can go through the entire process effectively. I knew we were looking at that. So, okay, so what I've done here is in our starter kit that we did the original audit through, is I've just created a test page, and I just want to show you the exact same process now, basically, but when going through the Umbraco. So as we come through with the tab, we can start to see that certain things are highlighted. We know where we are across the top of the page. Certain things are coming through the screen viewer, and we can identify where we're at throughout the process. This works relatively well. So as we come through the fields here, we can tell that the title, for instance, it's identified the title. I'll just move that across a little bit. So title is asking you, giving you the label plus the help text underneath, and it's advising you it's editable. So obviously that's enough for a user to go through. However, then when we come to the main image though, this is where it becomes obviously some problems are displayed. So as we come into there, the tab just says that it was a link with a list with one item, and it was a link. So as a user, if I was visually impaired, I wouldn't be able to know that this main image was the main image field. And then similar to that as well, just going back to the navigation through the keyboard, I would expect my next tab to go to this full width field here. But when I actually do the tab, it jumps me down to this meta name here. So it's just highlighting basically some of the processes, some of the potential issues that a user may experience when navigating through this. And these are things that we try to raise within the process, and just to make sure that they're easy to be identified as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you performed a full accessibility audit of the back office, or a pretty comprehensive one, as far as I've seen.
Yes, exactly right. So as you, so what we tend to do with something like this stage is what we call a rapid testing session. So we would basically go through that and basically hit it hard and fast. We want to make sure we raise as many issues as possible, potential PR, should I say, and make sure that, you know, as many of these things are visible and are raised as possible. And then once we go through that initial process, and obviously, as Mike pointed out before, it's sort of a long haul for this, can't expect it to be done overnight. So once we come to a process where a large potential of those pull requests are completed, we can then go back through the process and really focus in and go deeper and highlight anything that is outstanding and obviously could potentially raise a large issue with these users going forward as well. So it's quite a long process, but as you can tell, there's so many areas that's going to be affected by it, and yeah, it's a lot to take in as part of it. But yeah, exactly as you said, the original audit was just basically hitting as many of the sites as possible, including the new features such as the infinite editing and all of that. So it's really interesting because obviously we do a lot of front-end testing, so being able to test the CMS in this capacity was an eye-opener for myself as well, to tell the truth. So
yeah, and the findings from that are on the GitHub page that Mike mentioned earlier. Is that right?
Yes, all of them on there, and then I believe as PRs are being created, they're striking out the ones that are being targeted as part of that. So so far it's been good response, hasn't it, overall? So
yeah.
How many have you had merged so far, or submitted so far? Do we know?
Mike, you may be next for this.
Yeah, so let me have a quick check. When I did put some stats out a week or so ago, and I can't actually remember what they were.
We even mentioned that during the umbraCoffee, some 14 or something like that were already.
Something like that, yeah.
Very impressive, given that this is only.
I think it was 18 pull requests and 15 were merged.
Wow.
Yeah, around, there's lots. There's over 10
but maybe let's focus on something else. If anyone who is watching right now, us right now, thinks about that she or he has something to add to this discussion, how they can reach you as a team, how you are organized as a team, how often do you, I don't know, meet, chat, discuss, or where is the place where anyone who is interested even in making Umbraco better from the accessibility perspective can reach you and find you?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. There's obviously, you can get in contact with any of us via Twitter, I imagine. There's a Slack channel, so on the Umbraco Slack channel, there is an accessibility channel specifically for that, and we're all on that. There's also a Trello board. I can send that over to you to chuck into the notes. And that's where we sort of thrown a load of ideas, a load of resources. So even if people are wanting to learn a bit more about accessibility, regardless of whether or not they think they want to contribute to improve the Umbraco back office, maybe it's just general education for themselves. We've put a load of resources in there in terms of tools for testing, links to the actual guidelines, and there's a sort of rough ideas. So you can put any comments in there. We've met once so far, sort of in a similar thing to this, where we've met online, and we'll probably organise another one soon. There's no sort of set hard and fast rules for any of this at the moment. I'm sure it will develop as we go. But yeah, any way you want to try and get in touch, get in touch.
It's worth just mentioning that originally when we first met, we set a goal of 5 PRs before Codegarden. And obviously we massively exceeded that. So it just goes to show that as well as there being a hell of a lot of things to do, it's also, you know, if you're interested in learning about how to do pull requests and things like that, this kind of project that I think would be really beneficial, because you could, there are many accessibility fixes that are actually really quite simple, unless you want to get really complicated, because there's some really deep-rooted problems as well. But you know, so for anybody who's new to doing things like pull requests, it's this kind of project that would be really useful for learning that entire process.
Yeah, and last week that was what Jan was talking about in his nice spangly Sergeant Pepper jacket.
Yeah, it looked quite good. It said it fitted most people. Obviously, it didn't fit me as well.
You were talking last week about how it's not necessarily so difficult to contribute, and there's many different ways of getting involved and creating pull requests and stuff. In terms of, have you got any tips for first timers, maybe that want to get started with something? Anything on the accessibility list that they could be looking at that you need help with, maybe?
Yeah, well, I can't remember if it's still on the list, but there are many places where anchors are being used where it really should be buttons, because it has a ref. That would be something that I consider fairly easy to achieve, but it can be well, maybe it's not easy for everyone just starting out. I mean, there can be some barriers if you're not that familiar with Git and all that stuff, but just reach out to some of us, and then the pull request team are also awesome at helping people out. So yeah, don't be shy. Just reach out. If something doesn't make sense, then we'll talk you through it.
I can add something to that, because I've done my first front-end related pull request during the roadshow, being forced by Emma Burstow. So yeah, that was something what was totally new for me. It wasn't so hard to do it, but the process was a little bit different, because I was digging in the CSS and some pre-compiled style sheets, which was something new for me. I've learned something new, and I also helped the project. So that's how everyone can be involved, not only the first timer or anyone who is contributing to Umbraco or any other project for the first time.
And I think that's a good point. And now you mentioned the build script. I mean, that's something you need to know about when you dig into the code base for the first time. Yes. It is documented on GitHub, but it can be a bit intimidating, perhaps, and something you need to learn. So feel free to reach out if you need help getting started.
But one of the other things that's be really beneficial for this whole process would be finding more people who have day-to-day sort of, whether it's temporary or permanent disabilities. Jan, yourself, you're colorblind, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm red-green colorblind, and that actually means that with the current theme in the back office, I have issues seeing whenever something is hovered or focused, because the change is so subtle that I have to move really close to the screen to see it currently. And I get that it's probably all a part of the new theming, and you want to have something look shiny and sexy, and that's fine. But I've been thinking about maybe doing like a high resolution theme, because I remember back in the day with Molly Holslag, I think her name is. She had this theme switching thing on her blog where you could have a high resolution, or not high resolution, but high contrast layout.
Yeah, high contrast. There are some packages right now. I think that it's a great entry point to just put the style sheet, which is prepared for any things and any problems with seeing the current color set before it's getting fixed or maybe improved in the next versions of the whole project itself. Yeah, that's a great topic. It's a topic about which we can probably talk for an hours. Yeah. And we've asked our guests to put some resources, links, and everything else what we've discussed. It will be, of course, included in the description of this video, so it's not getting lost. Everyone can participate and be involved. I've already joined the Slack channel in the accessibility channel. Cool. That was a great set of knowledge. Callum, do you have anything else to mention? Maybe about anything related from this week? We had some releases, right?
Yeah, there was a couple of quite cool releases. Stuff maybe inspired by CodeGarden. I know Paul Seal has released some translation.
Auto translation module.
Translation to Azure, which looks quite cool. There was seems like we're getting a lot of V8 packages through now, which is nice.
Yeah. And also there is a preview which Mark shared on Twitter for Editor.js for Umbraco, so inline editing, which is another way of handling HTML editing process from the back office. And of course, it's a preview, so something open for the discussions. And I've spotted also the uGuardian package, which is kind of members related for the members exports. And also we can see then the new, as you've mentioned, new approach of creating packages straight to V8, which is awesome, because the more people are starting doing V8 packages, the more people are using V8 and stuff like that. So it's all awesome. And we can all learn a lot from meetups which are happening. So we've seen that Edinburgh meetup happened, and Belgium also had a great set of talks which were summarizing the CodeGarden activity and just sharing the knowledge learned from the CodeGarden to more spaces. And we'll have some other meetups on the way. And what else? I've seen that there is some videos coming about Umbraco, and Mark Drake also teased us that he will be recording 10 to 15 minutes tutorials. So maybe accessibility not only will be the topic of some of the videos. And there's a member login package, and there was also something about reading group in UK. John Sedo and Paul Morden are trying to restart another meetup group to share knowledge across the people around reading. That's probably all what we have on our list. If we missed anything, of course, reach out to us. And
it's pronounced Reading.
Reading.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's spelled the same.
English, don't worry about it.
I'm learning all the time, so that's good to know. Good to know.
It's not. I mean, it's spelled reading. Who knows what they were thinking?
I'm reading about Reading now, so that's good.
Yeah.
So we'll share all of the links that we've discussed today, but also specifically the accessibility things. There's a bunch of other resources we want to share around the work that you've been doing, because it's really, really cool, and I think more people should be aware of it. But also the rest of the news from this week, all in the description, link wherever it is, and people can go over that after. And of course, the link to the Trello board and the GitHub issue if you really want to get involved.
Cool. So that's all probably. Thanks for joining us and to be so involved in helping Umbraco project and people to understand about those issues about which probably a lot of them are not even thinking at some point. And we'll be sharing this episode and everything else related with hopefully more people who join the Slack channel and Trello board and help to put some more issues to work on them for the future Umbraco releases, and not only. And we will all see each other next week, hopefully.
Indeed. Thanks. A massive high five, you rock, to the
big high five, and congrats for everything what you've already done. So thank you once again, and thank you for watching us. See you next Friday.